The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network.
Golf Talk Live is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips Magazine. Here's Andrew to tell you more about our sponsors.
iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, including reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, all designed to help you improve from tee to green. Welcome to Golf Talk Live with your host, Ted Odorico. Join Ted each week as he speaks with some of the best in golf. This week's special guest will join us a bit later. But first up is another great discussion on Coach's Corner. So let's introduce tonight's Coach's Corner panel.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Season 13 of Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico. We've got a great show for you this evening. Starting off this week, of course, is another great discussion on Coach's Corner, and I'm going to be joined by my good friend and partner in crime, if you will, here on the Coach's Corner panel, Clint Wright, and I'll tell you a little bit about him here in just a moment. And a little bit later on, I'm going to be also joined by another good friend on the travel segment, of tonight, and that's by, of course, my co-host and travel expert, Robert Kaufman. And he's going to be joined by this evening's special travel guest, Katherine Sansone, who is the founder of Sansone PR and Marketing. And then a little bit later on, my featured guest of the evening is Clay Simpson, and he is with Sky Golf. So he'll be joining me on the latter part of the show. So I'm really excited about that. They've got some new stuff coming out on the market here pretty quick, and we're going to talk about some of the technology behind what Sky Golf does. But really, really excited about the show. And I'm going to introduce my good friend here, and we'll get started in the conversation, assuming that my voice stays with us here. As I mentioned, Clint Wright joining me here on the Coach's Corner panel. He's a 30-plus year member of the PGA and is a partner of TGM Golf. And, of course, TGM is a big proponent of the R3 approach, which, of course, is designed to help golfers of all levels become better players. He's also considered by many of his peers to be certainly among the best covering the short game, and is, of course, a favorite here on Coach's Corner. So, Clint, welcome to the Coach's Corner panel here on Golf Talk Live.
Glad to be with you, Ted. Looking forward to it.
I appreciate it, and we're going to get right into the discussion here. Obviously, I know one of the things that we always talk a lot about on the show, especially when I have you on, is I know you really enjoy focusing on the short game, and I've got a few different things here we're going to talk about,
Sure.
things that we haven't really covered yet, so far on the show, but I think you'll like this conversation. So I put together, and there's certainly more of them, but these are just 5 ways that I think a lot of golfers can help improve their short game. And the first one I want you to talk a little bit about, because often, and this really applies to not just the short game, but really all the game, and it's about the grip. You really kind of need softer hands, I think, when you're gripping the club, especially when you're chipping and that sort of thing. And what I mean by that is, we often see a lot of players, they've got kind of a death grip, if you will, on the golf club. And when you're really hitting some of those more finesse shots around the green, especially when you're chipping and that, you've got to have the little bit softer hands. So can you maybe just unpack that a little bit and explain exactly what we're talking about?
Well, yeah, sure. And it's kind of all over the map as far as what you see the icons of the game. Nicklaus had a soft grip. Palmer, on the other hand, had a real strong grip on a putter and chipping. Tom Watson was another one that had a real firm grip. So it really kind of comes down to personalities a little bit, and how you intend to see the ball go in the hole, particularly for putting. Is that if you're more of a bang it in the back of the hole type aggressive putter, you're probably going to need a little bit stronger grip pressure to keep the putter head from outrunning your hands a little bit, keep it a little bit more under control. On the other hand, if you're a putter like Nicklaus, it was a die putter that let the ball fall into the hole a little bit more, play a little more break. Then you'd probably want to have a little softer, a little more lighter grip pressure if you're that style of putter. And so I think the question you have to answer to begin with is, what style are you? How do you want to see the ball to go in the hole? And then that would dictate kind of where you would fit in. But on the other hand, if you're an aggressive putter, you don't want to have a real, push all the blood out of the tips of your finger grips. But on the other hand, if you're let it fall in the hole, you can't just let it flop around either. You have to have a minimal control of the putter on one end and make sure you don't have a maximum pressure on the other end, if that makes sense to you. So I think the real question for grip pressure is you have to decide who you are and then match that grip pressure to how you tend to want to play your putting stroke for the day. As far as chipping and pitching the ball, I think it really kind of comes down to somewhat of what shot you got. I know if I've got a little bit of a flop shot, I want my hands to be real soft because I want to be able to keep the club face open. I don't want my hands to be real active in squaring the club back up when I'm trying to hit it straight up in the air. On the other hand, if I'm hitting a little bump and run, I want to have some control of the club. So there, I think the shot that you're required to hit will dictate just what your grip pressure may be. And in that particular case, I think grip pressure in which hand. If I'm going to hit a flop shot, I want all the grip pressure in my left hand and keep my right side out of it, because that tends to what will square the club back over and take loft off of it when I'm trying to hit it a little harder. If I'm hitting that bump and run chip shot, I'm probably going to have more equal pressure. So the shot dictates it, where in putting, I think your personal style will dictate it.
Yeah, and I think it goes to something that we always talk about here on the Coaches Corner panel, and that is really to get out there and practice these different shots, because the only way you're really going to understand that is to practice how you're going to prepare it. And obviously there's certain things that certain commonalities you're going to see with a lot of players, but you raise some really interesting points when you reference some of the players. Like you look at Nicklaus, who had relatively small hands compared to some other on tour, and you get somebody like an Arnold Palmer, and others who had larger hands tend to have a little bit firmer grip on it. So, again, it does depend on the individual, but there are certain scenarios, as you point out, where maybe a little bit lighter touch or a softer touch gripping the club might be required or necessary. And we're going to talk about something you sort of led into, but we're going to get into that a little bit later. And that is really sort of the grip pressure of that lead hand. In this case, for right-handed golfers, we're talking about the left hand. And I want to expand on that a little bit more. But some great points that you raise. And again, you have to get out there to really practice what you're doing. And that's the only way you're going to really discover what works best for you. So some great points that you raised. The next one I want to get you to talk about is allowing your body to rotate, especially whether it's pitch shots or even some chip shots. A lot of people, you see this with a lot of golfers, especially our high handicap golfers, where they tend to get a lot of upper body movement and going in the backswing, but then when they come down through impact, their lower body pretty much stays stationary. They're not really rotating through the shot. So give me your thoughts on that as well, because that's one we see quite a bit with some of our high handicappers.
Well, sure, because they think they do everything in their daily life with their hands and arms, so they think there's more control there. Again, this kind of comes down to situations. I think how far away you are. If I'm up just around the edge of the green, then those little chips and pitch shots are going to be played very similar to a putter. I don't want a lot of movement in my lower half with those shots. So I look at it, if they're out there to where they've got to take the club maybe close to waist high or somewhere between the knee and waist high, they're going to have to let the body move along with it. I don't feel like that they should be dictating the upper body with the lower half like we might with a full swing. But I think that it has to be relaxed and follow the upper half, so it kind of stays a little bit more together versus having separation. On our full swings, we try to create a little separation between the lower half and the upper half to generate some lag and power. But I think in the chipping and pitching, we have plenty of power. There's really, we have this discussion many times about there's only two types of swings. There's the full swing and the putting stroke. So which method do you need for this length? And when you can still hit a putter that far with that upper half, then the lower half tends to want to follow along. Once we get out to where we need the full swing, then we want the upper half to follow along.
Right.
So I think you bring up a valid point that you just have to go out and try these situations, because you can't repeat something you're not aware of.
Yeah.
You have to feel it and be able to feel the body move along with the upper half in the chip shots. And then you can maybe start determining, well, I know what that feels like now. So now, therefore, I'm aware of it, so I can repeat it when it's when it's called on. So I like to see the idea that once it gets a little bit higher than knee high to maybe waist high, to feel like the body flows along in one piece. And then when I get out where I've got to make it shoulder high, then I'm more back in the lower half, dictating the path of the club.
So in other words, if I hear what you're saying, is the bigger the backswing or the longer the swing, the lower body is obviously going to be more engaged. Whereas
Certainly.
if it's a shorter shot, like just a little bump and run, then it's predominantly controlled by the upper body, and there's very little, if any, lower body that may be required. It's, again, sort of following along, whereas with the full swing, the lower body is more or less taking control and initiating it, and the upper body is then becoming a movement as a result of that transition. So
absolutely.
The reason why I ask is because a lot of people, I think, get it backwards. I
sure.
think a lot of people, do that backwards when they get in their full. Right, right, exactly. So, I want people to really understand that, because again, there's obviously going to be variations depending on the distance of shot that needs to be played. But I think people need to understand that there is going to be, in the short game, certain situations, of course, and some may not, where there is going to be some body rotation required. Because, too often we see them sort of just stopping and, they're taking the club back and they're just sort of sticking it in the ground because there's no real body movement or rotation going through the shot. And, when you've got maybe, say, a 50-yard pitch shot, you have to have some body rotation. And a lot of people, you'd be surprised. I see them out in the range, some of these old guys out there, and they're just not doing it. So
the one thing I can add to that, if I could interrupt,
sure,
is I like the idea in the pitch shots is we want to allow the lower half to rotate, not required to. We want to allow it to move with the upper half. Now, on the full swings, it's required.
Yeah.
So as long as they feel like they can allow the hips to rotate along with the upper half swing, then that's really a very soft, very controllable method of hitting the back of the ball.
Now, I don't really go for recommending a specific player to necessarily emulate, but if you were going to show a player, whether it's off the PGA or the LPGA, to a student, and you want them to see and understand what we're talking about right here, who would it be a player that you would say, I want you to watch that? Here's a video of this player here. Who I'd like to see that really demonstrates what you're talking about?
Well, I think there's most all of them.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, there's most all of them, because the one thing they don't really show a lot of times is these type of shots on television, because they're a bit boring. They want to show the long drive and the flop shots and the long putts and stuff. So if you look at them, they all play these shots very similar. So you could pick out anybody actually that's in that we see and we know their names that pitch the ball very well. Because if you look at the situation that they're all really good at it, because they're hitting 13 greens around, something like that.
Yeah.
So they've got 5 opportunities to give a birdie back. And out of those 5, they may give them back 1 per round, maybe 2. So they're pitching the ball extremely well. So I would emulate any of them, to be honest with you, because it's almost generic in how they play some of these shots.
Yeah, it makes you sick a little bit when you watch some of these players how easily. I used to be mesmerized when I watched Tiger coming up. Not so much in the earlier years, but as he really honed his game in. And just the fluidity of his golf swing. And this brings us to the next point. We've talked about tempo and timing and things like that.
Right.
And a lot of people really find it difficult to sort of find the right tempo for them. So if you were going to talk to somebody about tempo and obviously timing, what would that conversation be like? If you want them to really understand and feel what their tempo is for them, because everybody is different, I understand.
Sure.
What would that conversation maybe entail?
Well, you have to have a conversation on how you define tempo versus rhythm.
Right.
In my opinion, they're 2 different things. You
Sure.
can have really quick tempo, but very smooth rhythm. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that with the Lanny Watkins or the Ben Crenshaws are totally different. Their tempo is one very quick and one's very slow, but they all have the same rhythm to them. So what I see the biggest trouble with is people try to go back really slow and then all of a sudden jumpstart their downswing. So their tempo is slow, but their rhythm doesn't match.
Right.
It comes down so much faster and jerky than it did going back. So my point is, I want you to, whatever it's going to be, make sure it's in both directions. See,
Yes.
I want to feel like that I'm getting a person to feel like that they're not increasing the rhythm on the downswing. Nor are they going to make it very slow or real fast going back. It's again an experimental level to being aware of what your tempo is. And once you determine the tempo, whether it's going to be quick or slow or medium, whatever that tempo may be, then you want to match your rhythm to it. Don't try to go real slow going back and real fast coming down, or vice versa. Okay, they have to match. So that's where we have a conversation about tempo, and then what's the rhythm of that tempo, you know? And so therefore we have to do a little investigating. And I actually try to get people to say, okay, I want you to grip the club. Let's not have a lot of tension in the upper half, and let's just move our body through the space with no tension. Maintain grip pressure. The way I try to get people to feel it is, I don't want the club going back or coming down any faster than it did in the opposite direction.
Right.
So, okay, maintain, because you don't have to increase the speed of the club coming down. That's rhythm. I want to take it back and let it deliver. The downswing is the completion or the results of the backswing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's, to me, it's a finishing movement versus a starting movement. We have a lot of people say, how are you going to start your downswing? Well, I'm not so sure we start our downswing. I think we finish the backswing and it goes the other way. And so feel that rhythm, find the tempo, work from the slowest rhythm you can of forcing the downswing, and find out where you fit in.
Yeah, it's a really interesting approach to that, because one thing that I notice a lot is, and I think this is why that's such a challenge for people, is you'll see, for instance, back a number of years ago, we started seeing a lot of players shortening their backswing. And I'm talking about the tour players. They're taking it not, seeing like a John Daly obviously was excessive,
right.
but, seeing it even like Nicklaus going right up to the top. Now you're seeing them, it almost looks like a 3/4 swing, and then they're coming through with their rhythm or their tempo. And I think what people had difficulty with is what you're talking about, is keeping the same pace going back and coming through. And
That's
I think
right.
because they were going and subconsciously trying to shorten that backswing, so they were being very conscious about going back slow to get it to that, maybe that 2/3 or 3/4 position. And now all of a sudden, because they're going through to a full swing and coming up high and tight, they're not able to balance that out. So I think, what I remember watching Dave Pelz, the late Dave Pelz, always talked about when he was doing some of his short game schools. He'd always talk about how, he wanted people to take the club back the same distance in the backswing as they did in the follow through for some of these shorter shots. Obviously, full shots were different, because he wanted them to feel that sort of rhythm and get their tempo and timing down. But for longer shots, when you've got somebody that's shortened that backswing quite a bit, I think it's harder for people to understand that you've got to come down with the same sort of rhythm, if you will, as what you went back. So how do you do that? How do you address that?
It's almost how you have to explain to how your body works,
right?
How the muscles work. And so if you take it back very slow, then I'm going to assume it's with little to very low tension in your upper half.
Right.
And you take it back, and let's use the scenario you just described, where they take it back kind of slow, and all of a sudden they want to jump start it coming down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that means the muscles are contracting, so therefore they're shorter, okay, with tension level, which in reality slows the club down. Club head speed will go down. All right, as tension goes up, it's no different than applying the brake on your car. When you create that tension, it's going to slow your car down. So if you get up to the top and very relaxed, and you try to jump start it, or what we call jump at it, kind of idea, your muscles are contracting, you're using tension. So I always try to explain people, don't confuse effort with tension. They're two different things, because the more tension you have, the less effect your effort's going to have. So we want to keep the tension level very low from the downswing starting. And so that, again, helps them feel like, okay, I want to stay loose and relaxed, which may keep them from igniting their muscles to try to jerk it back down. So as long as I can keep my muscles from increasing tension on the downswing or trying to create that off of that shorter backswing, then I'm going to stay relaxed with some rhythm to it. And so therefore I try to get them to focus, and we've talked about this many times, about not changing the tension level in your right hand in putting. It works the same way. If I don't allow the tension level to increase, that means my muscles in my arms and shoulders are not contracting. So therefore, I'm going to get a more club head speed because there's nothing blocking it. And most likely it's going to come down on the same path it went back on because it only knows the direction it came from.
Right. Well said. It's just always interesting. I'm a visual person, so I always watch, people out in the range, and it's just amazing when, here listening to you, explain things, and I'm thinking to myself at the same time, I'm visualizing people I've seen on the range, maybe over the last little while, and I'm applying everything you're saying to what I, what I visually saw. And it's kind of, sometimes it's a little frustrating, but nevertheless, there's so much truth in what you speak, and obviously that comes from your years of experience doing what you do. And I think that for a lot of people, I think they overthink the process. Would you agree with that? They think yeah. But they get too much going on up in their head, and they're thinking about all these things. And a lot of times, if you just sort of, I hate to use this analogy, but sort of water it down and just simplify the process a little bit more, because your body does naturally move in certain ways. And obviously, if you don't have, if you've got some physical, impediments, things like that, or injuries, that could detract from some of it. But essentially, your body moves in a certain way. And if you start to go against the natural flow of your body, then it's very easy to let some of these issues creep in that we often see out in the practice tee, where they're forcing the shot, or they're, in that transition, they've taken a nice backswing, and now all of a sudden they're, jumping out of their shoes. Right. And a lot of it's because they're trying to compensate or make up for, something else that maybe is not quite. Right.
You're right too. I think what we run into, and I'm kind of personally dealing with some of this now, is that there's some competing theories going on. Oh. At my age, I was taught to be an upper half swinger. Take it back, lay it open. You're gonna, separate the downswing, and you're gonna release the club with the upper half. All right. Well, as we get older, we can't separate like that anymore. But now, if you look at the younger players, they're body releasers. They use the lower half and let the upper half just fly through because they're playing and swinging on their body lines. What you just said, how their body works. So that's why they're hitting it so far. Is that there's no tension in their upper half. They get it turned all the way back as far as they can. The old rule of thumb is 45 hips, 90 shoulders, but they're not bringing it back down with their shoulders. They're turning their left hip out of the way, and it's just flying through there. So when you get these kind of competing theories, between whether you're going to be an upper half releaser or body releaser, then you have to understand the positioning and the body lines that accommodate either one of those methods. And I would encourage anybody right now that's either starting to play the game or, played it for a long time, is take a look at the positioning that some of the younger players have, is particularly on the initial portion of their backswing. And it's dramatically different than what we were taught. Yeah. Dramatically different. So if you're going to try to take the tension out of the upper half, you have to start paying attention to how you get it ready to do that. And there are, like you said, you see them on the range. I see them too. There's a lot of competing theories. They watch what they see on television, and they try to emulate it with what they see on YouTube videos. And the young teachers are teaching this more of a body release, and they're trying to incorporate that into what they were taught 40 years ago. And to be honest with you, I've experienced it. It don't work. I mean, it gets really bad. Then you just have to break out one way or the other.
Well, and it brings to this thought, if you will, is, and again, obviously with every age of player, as we get older,
Sure.
Clint, our bodies are not going to work the same as they did when we were in our 20s. And I'm like you. I'm sort of, a little bit more the traditional golf swing that we were taught years ago. And I've tried some of the more modern approaches, and I'm still pretty lucky. I've still got a pretty decent flexibility, so I can handle some of it. But I sit and wonder to myself, when some of these young guys, as they age, because of the changes that they're doing now with the golf swing, are they going to be able to do that when they're 50, 60 years old? Because their bodies are not going to be able to handle the level of pressure that they're put. I mean, you watch some of these young guys, and they're in great shape, don't get me wrong, but because they're not dealing with it the same way as we did, I just wonder, how is it going to affect them when they get, when they start getting up to the Champions Tour, that sort of thing. Plan.
I think their back is going to hold up better, but maybe, I don't know if their hips and knees will.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
That's right. If you look at, you don't want to just pick on him all the time, but Tiger with the knee problems, I think come out of that he was just so strong and fast. Is it popping that left leg like that? It blew his knee out. So I think you have a valid point. But on the other hand, the Sam Sneads and guys played forever too. They took care of themselves somewhat, and
sure.
But I guess the jury is still out. I mean, they're still in their 30s and early 40s, so we'll have to wait a few years to see just how it works out.
Well, and you look at like somebody like a Bryson DeChambeau. I mean, this guy's just generating incredible power, and again, it's being done differently than what it was 30, 40 years ago. Obviously there were some big hitters back in the day, but again, the way their body was. I mean, you look at somebody like a Johnny Miller, how he had that big reverse C posture, right. And I'm sure he paid for it physically as time went
Certainly
on.
Did.
So it had its issues too. But it's going to be interesting to see, 20 years down the road, the guys are hot right now on the tour. How are they going to be? Are they going to have to adjust their swing somewhat? Are they still going to be able to swing it in the same method? Maybe not as with as much force, but
right.
Are they still going to be able to do the swings that they're doing today, 20, 30 years from now, if they're still playing?
I think they're already recognizing it somewhat. If you watch what they do with their left foot, they let it turn out.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to turn across it to back. So I think they're recognizing the fact that maybe even now some of those movements are creating some issues for them. So they're taking some of that pressure off of their left knee by getting on their left heel and the toe spinning out.
Yeah.
We were taught that was death. We didn't ever want to do that. But with the generation and the speed they're going, that's part of the thing they have to do to protect their body and be able to play longer. I think they're recognizing it now because you start to see some changes.
Well, and you're also
GT, they're all turning that left foot out.
Yeah, and you're also seeing them too, especially with their irons more so, but you're seeing them more as opposed center weighted, meaning that, more evenly balanced between the feet.
Right.
You're seeing them almost not leaning, but with more weight on that lead foot. So they're almost like when they're going in their backswing, they're not really, they certainly are shifting weight, but not the same as what we did where they're more back. It's still sort of a more centered over the ball. And that low point is actually in front of the ball. So they're not really having to shift a lot of weight forward. They're already over forward on their.
They're already over
foot.
there.
That's right. So and that's what you're seeing. A lot of the more modern golfers doing, and you know what? Some of them are. Like I said, they're incredible when you watch them. But it'll just be interesting to see how that holds up in time. But hopefully, you and I'll still be around.
I fully intend to be.
Right. This one here, Clint, is something that we really don't talk about very much, but I think it's a good one to bring up. And that is the bounce of a club, particularly with our wedges and that. You see a lot of golfers. Right. I see them, especially with their wedges, they're digging that leading edge in all the time. They're not really utilizing the bounce very much. How do we take advantage of the bounce of a club? Help players walk through that a little bit, because that's something we see a lot.
Well, the manufacturers of wedges, we can bring up all the names, but it's not. They're all, do some of the same stuff. But I think that the player needs to allow the club to sit the way the manufacturer intended it to sit. Okay, I see a lot of people that go out there that got this really extreme shaft lean. And the more you lean that shaft, the less bounce that you're going to have. It's taking it off of it. You know, and they also, you see a lot of it. I want to utilize the bounce, so set the club the way the manufacturers intended it with a slight shaft lean. But if I really want to take advantage of the bounce, I'm going to have to roll that club open a little bit.
Yeah.
Get the face lines leaning towards your left foot or your lead foot. If you're, you know, most right-hand players obviously would be their left, would get it leaning towards the angle towards it. So therefore you're not taking any bounce off of the club.
Right.
And I think the comment you made is that people take bounce off of the club by shaft leaning it, get it shut down, a little closed. Make sure that you have minimal, you know, kind of shaft lean, but most importantly, make sure that the face lines are not running towards your trail foot. Make sure they're, if anything, they're lining up towards your lead foot. And this is another point of discussion, I think, as far as you doing some experimenting. And all the manufacturers today do great ideas for fitting and demo days. Get out there and take advantage of those things, okay? You know, I work for an international company doing those, and sometimes I have a lot of people show up, and sometimes nobody. So take advantage of them. The fitter are there for you, not the other way around. And so take advantage, because all the manufacturers have some different ideas on where the bounce should be on the sole of the club. Some have it a little further back, some have it a little bit more forward. So what you have to find is, if you want to have that little more aggressive shaft lean, you need to look at a club manufacturer that puts the bounce a little more towards the front of the club versus the back of it. You know, and they're out there. I mean, they all have different theories and the amount of bounce. All of them now, you know, back in the day, you'd get a 10-degree bounce sand wedge, maybe 12, but mostly 10. And then we would take it into the machine shop and have them grind it how we wanted it. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we don't do that anymore, because most of the manufacturers now have custom grind wedges. So you can get a little bit of the tour ideas at your local golf shop or where you buy them from. So most importantly, set the club the way the manufacturer intended it. Like I said, if you're the type of person that likes to have more shaft lean, make sure that you're dealing with a manufacturer that sets that bounce a little more forward. If not, you know, let it set a little bit back. But most importantly, if you're trying to let the bounce work for you, you don't want the club leaned heavily left or shaft lean, and you don't want to have the club closed or even square, most likely. Just make sure that the face lines are run a little bit more towards your lead foot, and therefore the bounce will stay on the club and you can utilize it.
Yeah, well said. You know, that's just something I think, and you're right, with you know, I keep saying this, but back in the day, our options were a little more limited than what they are today. But you're right. There's so many manufacturers, and there's some that just specialize in the short clubs, especially the wedges, and that are very, very proficient. There's so many clubs out there now, and it's not just the big guys. Sort of the top 4 or 5. There's a lot of other companies that are coming out that specialize in just what you're talking about. And you know, when down at the PGA show, I mean, you see them. And everybody's got a different theory as to what to do and what type of shot you want to hit, and you need a little more bounce or a little less bounce or what have you. So yeah, I mean, and the customization now I think is so much easier. You know, back at that time, you know, you had to be somebody who really knew how to make those changes to the clubs. I mean, I remember when they used to put lead tape. You know,
oh sure.
You know, clubs that they don't.
We still do that.
Yeah, I know. A lot of guys still do that, but there's a lot of guys now. You know, now they can customize pretty much anything you want. So you know, you don't have to do that. I mean, obviously, some of the more traditional players like to do that, and some of the pros still like to do that in their own equipment. But you know, there's so much flexibility now out there in design and what they can do right from the get go. So that's why it's so important, I think, for particularly new golfers, to make sure that once they make that commitment that they're going to play, that I really want to play, whether it doesn't have to be at the highest level, it's so important to be fitted properly, because you can get a lot of things that, and I mean, you don't have to be perfectly fit, but sometimes just buying off the rack too. I mean, that might be a start, but at some point you have to take a look at that.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, I might be wrong. What do you think?
Well, the fitting and the work that I do, the wedges, they kind of know who we are. The golf
Right.
manufacturer, their designers and stuff kind of know people. They try to tailor to a certain way. Now I've got 7 custom ground wedges that I can show people. And to be honest with you, there are some differences in how people operate. It also comes down to where you're going to use the club from. Are you going to pitch with it?
Sure.
Is it a bunker play? Whatever it is. So, and on top of that, not to be overly complaining or to point out, but these clubs are expensive today.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not like you're going to go in and buy one off the rack for $49 anymore. I mean, you're spending some money for these wedges, and it's important that you spend your money wisely, obviously, get value out of what you're spending. So you now can go to, and all the manufacturers are doing it. I mean, I go around.
Oh, yeah.
You can test them out before you buy them, and
Sure.
have somebody there with the TrackMans and the flight scopes and can tell you what the spin rates are. Those things are available to you. If you show up and most of the time you can sign up online and get your appointment, and the fitters are there for that. That's what we do, and or what they do. I'm kind of having fun doing it. But we're helping people out too, because you want them to have a club. I get emails on occasion and text, man, the clubs are great. Thank you. But we spend an hour time trying to figure it out. It
Right.
really comes down to eliminating what won't work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Figure out that, hey, that extra stiff 115, dynamic gold shaft just don't fit a 70-year-old man anymore. That one's out it's off the list. And so
Right.
you can
Yeah.
narrow things down a little bit, and particularly with the wedges. So like I've got a wedge in my set of wedge samples that start at 46 degrees and go to 64 degrees.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah,
find
I'm
one, I'll promise you. You can
Yeah,
find one.
well, and that's what I mean. There's such a variety out there now, and it just takes a little bit of effort on the golfer's part to go out there and have a conversation and sit down with your pro and talk about what it is that you're really looking to do and
Sure.
and the type of game that you want to play. And don't worry so much about what they're doing on TV. Play your own game, and I think
Right.
once you do that, it makes the choice a little bit easier.
And
Question.
to add this to that, they're good enough to find out.
Oh yeah,
A lot of people don't think that they're good enough that it matters, but they are good enough to find out what gives you. If you're not that good, you need to take advantage of everything you can.
yeah, right.
So good
Yeah.
equipment is going to help you. A good player can kind of play with a little bit with anything.
Yeah.
But so take advantage of it. It's there available to you.
Yeah, and that's, with so many options there, there's no excuses anymore. You can put the right
That's
club
right.
in your hand, but it takes a little bit of work, just like practice. It takes
That's right.
some effort on your part. Last question, you touched on this, I mentioned a little while back, and about
Right.
really that sort of lead arm and obviously the hand as well. There's some shots where, maybe you want to feel like you're pulling through with that lead hand and that lead arm a little bit, and others where maybe you want to have more of the right hand engage. You talked about that a little while ago. On certain shots where maybe you don't want to have the right hand as engaged. Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Sure.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm not so sure I want to ever get the feeling of the left side or my lead side pulling the club through.
Okay.
I'd prefer to not engage the trail hand.
Okay.
So if I don't engage the right hand, for right-handed players, for simplicity, my right hand, then the left side is going to lead. It's not to be overly simplistic. It's in the front. It's got to lead.
Yep.
What I don't want to have is the right or my trail hand engaging so hard that the club head outruns my lead arm.
Right.
Okay. So as long as I can get the feeling of the club head staying behind my lead arm, if you are a person that feels that that's more of a pulling action, wonderful. It's fine. I don't feel that personally. I don't teach it so much, okay? But if you feel the lead arm pulling a little more, then obviously that may be helpful for you not to engage the trail hand. Um, you know me, we've talked a lot about tension level already, and so I want to control the tension level in my trail hand. And but that's when, if I'm hitting a soft flop shot, that's going to be really loose, my right hand. So maybe you do get a feeling of the left hand pulling through more on those shots. I can't argue that.
Yeah.
If I'm hitting just a straight chip and pitch, I want to have my normal full swing grip pressure. I want it to be balanced, and I want
Mhm.
my arms and hands and the club head to work together, not necessarily separate one way or the other. Okay, so I lean back towards as we know, the capital letter Y with the club in my arms and the triangle. I want to keep that triangle together, and
Yeah.
so therefore, whatever I feel helps me do that, whether it's to pull with the left hand or not engage with the right hand. That's the objective, is to keep that Y moving, that triangle moving through impact. And so we all have different approaches and different ways of doing that. So if you look at the objective, is to keep the arm triangle moving through, all the way through past the lead arm and the lead leg. If you can envision this, if I got a triangle, I want the point on the backswing, the triangle to be going behind me. And when I'm done, I want the point of that triangle going in front of me. And so if I can do that, what I feel in my hands is kind of an individual thing. But personally, I think it's more of not engaging the trail hand and let it lead through.
Yeah. Great points. And again, it's just really to help people to understand. And again, I like to go back to this, and that is, I think the more that you get out and really practice your game, and don't just, as we talk about and joke about so much here on the show, is just sort of stand there and rake and hit balls. I mean, you have to put a little purpose in your practice. And
Correct.
if you want to have a better feel in your short game, then I think you have to work on these things. And again, there's a lot of different drills out there that people can do. Some people, like to get lined up and maybe like to close their eyes and just take a few practice swings and just sort of see how that feels before they actually get up and hit the shot. And there's a lot of different things. Some people maybe like to take one hand off and just use the one hand, whether it be the lead or the trail, just to kind of, again, feel the club head. And it's really what it's about. It's the club and the club head, particularly, that's really doing the work, and you're kind of going along for the ride. So, I think it's just a matter of getting that feel down that works for you. But obviously there's some certain things that do have to be in place. And I think that's where your pro can come in and guide you as best you can. But it's really, again, it comes down to each individual and what works best for you. And like I said, some people maybe get a little bit too aggressive with their trail hand and end up putting too much pressure on, and a myriad of things can happen. So, some great points. And I think as always, you enjoy listening to what I consider one of the best. And always, as we, now you do. And it's just interesting perspective, because I think, you're right. Today's game is much different than what we grew up seeing in that. And it's interesting to watch and interesting to learn, but I think there's certain core things that still sort of remain the same. It doesn't matter what demographic you're in, but I think it's always good to pay attention and to listen to people that have been doing this for a long time, and then take it out and apply it in your own game and see how it works for you. But Clint, you always do a great job.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Always enjoy having you on the Coach's Corner. And if the folks want to reach out to you and hear some more pearls of wisdom, what's the best way to do them?
Easiest way. I'm going to leave them with the last one that we talked earlier so far. You can't repeat something you're not aware of. And you become aware of things by practicing what you want to be aware of. If that sounds like it's in a circle, but it really is. You have to go with a purpose, find out what to be aware of. If they want to talk more about it, they can always email me at clintgolf001@yahoo.com. Be more than happy to correspond back and forth with people if they'd like to do that. And this is fun. I've always enjoyed doing it. We'll look forward to doing it some more.
Yeah, and I know you're going to be doing some fittings and things, working with your manufacturer in your area that you do so much great stuff. And you got to let me know if you guys are going to venture my way or somewhere that I can get together. We're going to have to get together.
Oh, we will. No worry. I'm going to be. I'll touch base with you, but I'm going to be doing a little traveling down that way here shortly. So we'll get up.
Sounds good. All right, stick with me for a second, Clint. I'm going to take a quick commercial break, and when I return, I'm going to be joined by this evening's travel guests. So I'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Karen Jansen, LPGA Master Teaching Professional and National Academy of Sports Medicine Certified Personal Trainer, and I'm very excited to share with you my Cardio Golf online subscription. Professional golfers know the importance of athletic development for golf. As a recreational golfer, you might not have the time to train like an elite athlete, but by simply adding a few golf-specific exercises and swing drills into your daily routine, you can dramatically improve your game, and you can do it at home with Cardio Golf. I have various pieces of equipment to help you train indoors, away from the golf course, like the Cardio Golf Shorty Club. This club is short so that you can swing inside. You're not going to hit the ceilings or the walls. The Cardio Golf Slope. This is great to simulate an uphill and a downhill lie. You know, the ones that you get on the golf course, but there's nowhere ever to practice. We also use this as a fitness step. I also have various pieces of equipment from Golf Gym, like the Powerball and the Power Bands, to help you improve your strength and flexibility. Join me every week as I take you through workouts that are going to help you shape your swing and trim your score. Start a free trial today. Go to cardiogolf.com.
Welcome back, everybody, and I'm excited now. We're going to be starting our travel segment this evening, joined once again by my good friend, co-host and travel expert, Robert Kaufman. Let me tell you very quickly about him, and I'll introduce our special travel guest of the evening as well, and then I'll let Robert take over and get the discussion going this evening. Robert, of course, is an award-winning photographer, golf and travel writer, golf media consultant. He's worked with a number of great publications such as Troon Golf and Travel Magazine, PGA Magazine, and of course, Golf Tips Magazine, along with a host of others. And if you want to see more of his great work, you can visit his website, pictureperfect.com. Our special travel guest tonight is Katherine Sansone, as she is the founder, of Sansone PR and Marketing. She moved to Lake Almanor, which is full-time in 2019, and has been coming to the lake since she was a child. And as a founder, of course, of her PR and marketing firm, she is also the marketing director of Plumas County Tourism, promoting the unique county in Northern California, nestled at the base of Laysan Volcanic National Park. So, Robert and Katherine, welcome. I hope I got everything correct, and welcome to the travel segment here in Golf Talk Live.
Thank you.
Great to have you, Katherine. That's quite the intro, huh?
Well, listen, Robert, I'm gonna hide myself for a few minutes. I'm gonna let you take over. I know you've got some questions and the discussion. Then you just prompt me to come back in. Okay?
Yeah, you got it. Thanks, Ted.
All right.
Well, hi again, Katherine. Yeah. So
Seeing you again.
Good to see you. It's been a while. So
Yes.
I'm looking forward to coming up your way. In a couple weeks. I'm looking forward to your insights. It's been a while for me, and I mean, I love that area up there. Once you get away from the maddening crowds.
Yeah. It's a very special place, and a lot of people don't know about it. And after the Dixie Fire, a lot of people thought that we were burned to the ground, but we're back. It's just as beautiful as ever. It's just a wonderful place to visit if you, as you said, want to get away from the crowds. You want to have a lot of outdoor adventure and relaxation. It's an ideal place to visit.
Yeah. Well, for myself, having lived in California my entire life, I have a pretty good sense where you are, obviously. But let's explain to our audience where Plumas County is, its location and.
Okay, so depending on where you're coming from, the Bay Area, if you're coming down on 5, we're east of that, it would be like going up towards Reno. And so we're way up, nestled up in the mountains. We're at about 5,000 elevation. And like I said, we're at the base of Mount Lassen, which is one of the most active volcanic parks that still is active, and it's a park. So we're off the beaten path, but if you're coming down from where you are, if you're on 5, you cross over and you sort of go through little tiny quirky towns to get up there. it's not a hard drive from the Bay Area. That's where I came up from. So it's a good weekend getaway for people who are, 4 or 5 hours away. And we do have an airport in the little town of Chester. So we do have lots and lots of visitors that do fly in from other areas because of the airport.
Yeah. I loved it when you communicated the other day, how safe the area is. Because down here, we don't even think about not locking a door or shutting a car door or whatever it might be. But yeah, up there, it's like you're open to neighbors and come on by and grab a cup of sugar, right?
Yeah. It's very much that way. I think there are some things about it is that if you go into a store, people want to sell their merchandise, obviously, but you become people's friends. They want to know where you're visiting, how you came up here. And so you walk away making a new friend. And if you go to the grocery store up here, that's our social hour. I can be in the grocery store for 2 hours and I'm in there for 4 items because we are a great, great community. And the entire county only has 19,000 people. So we have these little tiny towns, of 2,800, 1,000. And so they have their own personalities, but everybody seems to work well and get along together and do right by our county. So it is unique.
Yeah. Well, since we are here for golf, this, to me, it's one of those ideal regions anywhere, that's got quality golf up there, a lot of it. What do you have, 8, 9 courses up there? That
we have 9 courses.
All accessible to public.
Yes. And I think one of the things that's nice as a golfer, and I use that in quotes, it's nice that there is a variety of types of golf courses that people can play and that you don't get so frustrated if something is so hard. When I was down in the Bay Area, I played some courses and I thought, oh my gosh, get me off this thing. It wasn't even enjoyable. It was so hard. And here we have several that they're 9-hole golf courses. And what you do is you play it twice from different holes. I think I sent you the list there. Pricing is very, very reasonable. And one of the best things is you don't have to wait. I've never waited to get on at one of our courses up here, which is nice.
Yeah, no, I tried calling for a tee time down here, and I'm in the business about for a tee time this week, and they couldn't accommodate it.
Yeah,
it's crazy down here. So yeah, that's a nice little perk to have up there when you want to play golf.
Yeah,
but it's not just golf. You got 4 seasons worth of outdoor recreation. Right?
Yes, we do.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we do. We like to promote that it is 4 seasons. So we do have snow. Our snow starts sort of late in the season, more December through March and April. So it's a little bit late. So our falls are notoriously beautiful up here. We're known for our color changes. So if you're a biker or a hiker or when you get out on a kayak, the colors are just amazing. So we really like to have people come up in the fall and the winter. We do have some skiing. We have snowmobiling. If you want to go cross country skiing, we have all of that. But it's not a terribly long season. Then we go into spring. We're known for our world-class fishing. So we brag that we have over 100 lakes and over 1,000 miles of streams, creeks, and rivers. So if you're an angler, fly fishing, getting out on a boat, whatever, we have it all.
Yeah.
And then the summer, if you, like me, I just like to get out on the water and paddleboard and kayak and canoe. We have all those different types of lakes. And we have some lakes that are really conducive if you like to powerboat or jet skis. And then we have others that are really more conducive if you do want to get on a paddleboard and kayak or just sit on the beach and read a book. I've done that.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you're about an hour drive time from Tahoe?
About an hour and a half. Yeah. It's 2 hours from Reno, and that's a very, very easy drive. And then about an hour and a half from, Tahoe. And then, like I said, about 5 hours from the Bay Area.
Yeah.
So it's we're not too remote.
No, but you're remote enough, and it's great because it's such a a difference from being in that other area.
Yeah. Like you can be out hiking and you may not run into anybody.
Right.
And we like to say that we have more wildlife than we have people.
Yeah.
If you want to join, the ultra hikers, we're right on we're the halfway point for the Pacific Coast Trail, and we have elite hikers from all over the world. And Chester's sort of the halfway point, so they come in and pick up their mail, and we see them all over town, and they always have a story to tell. So if you're a hiker, it's sort of fun to join them for a day.
Yeah. What's the lodging like up there? I mean, you've got a lot, like you said earlier, a lot of quirkiness and interesting historical homes up there.
Yeah. So we have everything from, lodges. St. Bernard Lodge is a very traditional lodge. Has a lot of character to it, has a great bar. You can sit out and look at the mountain, and it's very close to Mount Lassen. We have a Best Western. We have the Antlers, which is a very locally owned and operated hotel. We have Timber Lodge, which has some history behind it. That bar and restaurant and hotel was closed in the early 60s, and a young couple used to come up here. And in fact, the Timber Lodge was one of their places for their first date, and they had the opportunity of buying it. So they've restored it. They only have 9 rooms, but every room has a theme, in either a Western or a romance, a chalet. So it's very, very fun. We have a couple bed and breakfast places that are very, very traditional. If you're camping, great camping, we have glamping. And all these places are conducive if you're a family traveling. We all have things for children. So it's an area that, like I said, I started coming up as a little girl. So it's very family oriented.
Right.
Not a lot of late night partying.
Yeah. Bottom line is there's something for everybody. And if you can't find it up there, don't even bother going.
Yeah, exactly. We like to pride ourselves, and like I said, I don't know anybody who comes away and they're just always so amazed that there's really a place you can go and see stars, because, we don't have street lights up here.
Wow.
Yes, no street lights, no lights on the road.
Nice.
And so you can really enjoy the beautiful, beautiful skies. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, that's awesome. I can't wait to get there. Yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to having you. So we hope you'll enjoy your different rounds of golf. They're 2 very, very different golf courses. I don't know if you've played the one that you're going to on Sunday. Bailey Creek.
Bailey Creek. It's been a long, long time. I have no idea.
Okay.
No remembrance of it. And the same with the Dragon, because I know they're very, very different types of courses.
They are very, very different. Yeah. So we hope it's 2 good experiences for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Ted, you want to jump in here and ask anything?
Yeah. Well, welcome me back to the show. Thank you, Robert. As always, do a great job. So, Katherine, let me ask you, it sounds to me from what I was listening to backstage is that this is a much more unique experience for travelers because there are a lot of things to do, but if they want sort of a more of an away place and not sort of in the heat of a big metropolis, like some of your big resorts typically, this is more of I guess what I would classify as off the beaten path. Do I understand that correctly?
It's very much so off the beaten path. And we do like to say that, there's a lot of places that have mountains and streams and everything, but it's our community, our people, some of our waterfalls. I took a hike a couple of weeks ago. Some of the waterfalls they're just amazing. And so it is different. And I think part of it is the people who live here, and also that it's not crowded. I mean, that is a luxury in itself. I was coming from the Bay Area, particularly.
Yeah, it is. It's very hard to imagine.
And that's what I was getting. Yeah, that's what I was getting at, because I mean, it's nice to go to some of the other facilities and that, but sometimes you just want a different experience, a little bit more unique. And sometimes you don't want the hustle and bustle of a big resort where there's just so many activities going on and you're in long lines for things like that. And sometimes you just want a little more quiet, and I like the diversity of what you have to offer there, the different seasons and that sort of thing as well. So there's different activities. And again, very family oriented, which is important. Is there a website or something that people can go that they can get more information if they want to investigate for themselves?
Yeah, it's plumascounty.org, and they can check out, the variety of things to do and activities, horseback riding, skeet shooting, anglers love it up here. Bird watching is another one that people love to do, to get out on the lakes and everything. So they can check out and see the variety of restaurants. We have some great breweries that are mom and pop breweries. If you're a beer drinker, that would be me.
Yeah, that would be me too.
Okay, then we're all on the same team.
Yeah. I'm sold. I don't care about the fish, and I don't care about timing. I'll even forego the golf. But yeah, you throw a nice beer in my way, and I'm good to go.
Yeah. So
if they wanted to reach out to you as well, can they contact you directly as a way to do that if they want to inquire and get more information?
Yeah, they can absolutely. You can reach out to me at Katherine at SansonePlus.com.
Perfect. All right. Well, if you guys want to hang tight for just a second, I'm going to take another quick commercial break, and I'm going to get ready to join this evening's featured guests here in just a moment. But I want to thank Katherine and Robert, of course, as always, for doing a great job on our travel segment tonight. And I'm really looking forward to learning more about. So I'm going to go on the website, and you might be seeing me sooner than you think. So
there you go. Just give me a call. We'll show you a good time. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. And we'll be right back.
Improve your putting with the Alignment Ball Marker, a revolutionary new in-game putting alignment tool and ball marker. Its patented design allows you to read your putt and adjust your alignment at the same time by using your putter, which improves your accuracy and makes the process of putting faster. 100% legal according to the USGA, by their definition, permitted under the rules of golf. Winner of Best New Product at the PGA Show, and only $9.99 on Amazon. And it's also completely customizable for any golf event or as a promotional giveaway. Order at alignmentballmark.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to Golf Talk Live. Again, I'm your host, and I'm really excited to have this gentleman joining me tonight. We actually had the pleasure of meeting a couple of years ago at the PGA Merchandising Show down in Orlando. Of course, I'm talking about Clay Simpson. He is the Logistics and Operations Manager at Skyhawk Technologies, which is the parent company of Sky Golf. And Clay has, with over 16 years at Sky Golf, he's also an avid golfer himself. His passion for the game shines through every product demo and on-course showcase he leads. His knowledge of GPS technology as an air weapons director in the United States Air Force, along with his love for the game, make him the perfect fit for Sky Golf. So, Clay, welcome to the show, and good to see you.
What a lead-in!
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
Well, also, thank you, for all that you do, and we get to see some great technology coming out of your neck of the woods, and you're the guy. And I got to share this really interesting story. I was telling, not on camera, of course, but I'm going to share it anyways now. 2 years ago when we met, I was sharing the story how I had this nifty little technology myself of this little 4K camera that I brought. It was on a gimbal. And I remember I had you go through some of the products that, I don't know if you recall, but that you guys had at the booth. And I realized after that somehow I mistakenly had shut it off. And that whole segment when you went through all of the components of Sky Golf and all the great technology and the only thing I remember getting was I did a quick pan around of the booth and catching some of the other folks that were hanging around, and you and I were talking in the background. So I didn't make it this year, but next year I'm going to be there, and I know you'll be there. So I'm going to get you to go through all of that again if you don't mind. And I promise to make sure that I've got the on switch and get it all on film. So
we can definitely go through it all again. Not a big deal.
So I know you enjoy doing that, but I thought to myself when I got back and I started looking at all the clips, because I shot a lot at the show, and that was the one I really wanted because you guys had so many wonderful products and you took a lot of time with me to go through that. And I thought, I can't believe I was so stupid and didn't have that thing working right. So I should have probably had you operate it and just shine it on yourself and just do a selfie, if you will. But I want to thank you for coming on and joining me tonight on the show. So yeah. So were you always fascinated with technology? I mean, you guys are dealing with some cutting edge stuff, and I'm going to, before we get into specifics of products and things like that you guys have, was that something that was always a peak interest of yours?
Yeah. Even back in my Air Force days, I was on a lot of contract award teams where we would go test new technology and stuff like that. So it's always been kind of a passion to be kind of on the tip of the spear, so to speak, of some technology out there. And then when I got the chance to go to work for Sky Caddie, um, I'd never even heard about GPS in golf at that point,
Right.
because they were still fairly new when I started with the company, and now now our technology is really like a tour yardage book in the palm of your hand, electronic yardage book in the palm of your hand, with all the information that it gives you. It's really amazing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and it's just if you've never had the pleasure of experiencing the Sky Caddie products, you need to first off go on the website and just check out, because it's very robust, the website, and giving you a lot of information. And then you've got to make a point of purchasing one of the products, and we'll talk about a few of the things that are on there, because it's just, I mean, the technology is just, I mean, first class. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff out in the market. You guys do it right, and I think I'm going to know the answer to the next question. What do you love most about your job?
Well, I wish it was playing golf, but I work for a golf company, so that doesn't mean I don't get to play a lot of golf. But
Right.
um, you know, the really fun thing about some of the things I get to do is, I do get to go out and meet a lot of people and talk to a lot of people about Sky Caddie, show them the product, show them how it works. I go to several golf tournaments. I go to a lot of retail stores,
Mhm.
and do a lot of things like that. So that's probably one of the funnest things that I get to do. Well, the other fun things is when we get new product. I'm one of the people that get to go out on the course and test it. So I see it before a lot of the people see it, and I get to put my hands on it and push all the buttons and try to make it break and do all that fun stuff. Yeah, that's probably the two biggest things of my job that I really enjoy is being out in the as not really as the face of Sky Caddie, because actually I have a face for radio, um,
Right.
but
I
uh,
hear you, brother. I hear you. Me too. So I'm right there with you.
But being out there and seeing the people and talking to people, talking to golfers, listening to what they have to say about maybe products that they're using, and then what can Sky Caddie do for them in their golf game and things along those lines. So it's a really fun thing to do.
One of the things I just want to mention, about you that really impressed me at the PGA show is, and I, obviously had the pleasure of walking around to a lot of different booths and some competitors and things like that. But one thing that really impressed me about you, Clay, is not just the knowledge that you have of the product and what's behind the product, but just the passion. A lot of times when you're going, and again, I understand that's what it's there for, but when you go to the PGA show, it's really, not just so much about promoting the product, but you're there to expose it to a lot of buyers and things like that. But you take a lot of pride in what you do. And that's why I asked you what you love most about your job, because there's a lot of passion in what you say. And that's very rare in any business, but particularly in what you guys do. Because a lot of guys kind of mouth and they read all the specs and they tell you that it has this and XYZ. And that's great. I can get a brochure and do the same thing, or I can go online and do the same thing. But you actually took the time, as I said, unfortunately to me, in my fumbleness with technology, we weren't able to get it recorded, but I'm going to get it next time so that people understand what I'm talking about. But you really took the time to really go through each thing and explain why, this is important and how it benefits the golfers. It's not just, hey, this looks cool and look at this. It's really about how this is going to benefit the end user. So, before we get into, I guess, specific details, give us just maybe the scoop, if you would, behind the technology that we're about to talk about. What's behind it?
So our two new devices, which is the Pro 5X and the Pro 4X, which has just been released, that you will be getting one hopefully next week.
Yep.
The only really difference between the two is one has a 5.5 inch screen, one has a 4-inch screen. So I don't know if you can, it's going to be kind of hard for you to maybe see them, but I actually have them here. So
perfect.
You can see both of those. What the user interface on all of our product is pretty much exactly the same. So whether you're using one of our watches or even one of our handhelds, the menu's the same, right? So the buttons are going to work the same. The graphics are going to look the same, right? So it's and we have customers who use both. They'll have a watch and they'll have a handheld because those cart days, they'll cart path only days, they'll have their watch with them instead of carrying the device with them.
Right.
So those are cool. Now the new series, the Pro series, okay, they have the newest GPS engine and the newest GPS antennas in them. Okay. Along with the way we map a golf course, which actually we send mappers to a golf course with GPS grade equipment, right? And they will walk the golf course from the golfer's perspective. Can't get a golfer's perspective from a satellite view, right?
Right.
Because you can't see all the little sways in the fairways and stuff like that from a satellite view. But if you're walking the same ground that a golfer walks, and looking at it from a golfer's perspective, you can see all those undulations. You can see where's the best place to possibly hit your drive to, right? And leave it in to go into that green for the next shot. Okay. And that's one of the things that we really tout on doing. So when our mappers are mapping a course, the equipment they use is sub-meter accurate. So when they mark a point, they're on that point. Now you move that down to our devices, and the devices are the same way. These devices, 95% of the time, we're within a yard to 3 yards of where you actually are. Okay. And people say, well, what's the difference between using one of your devices and, say, my iPhone? Okay. Well, the GPS engine in your iPhone is not meant for golf.
Right.
It's meant for car navigation. Right. So in car navigation, if they get you to within 100 or 200 yards of the address you're looking for, you're going to find it.
Right.
100 yards, even 50 yards on a golf course, you're talking 5 clubs difference.
Right. Exactly.
So that's one of the biggest deterrents, I guess, from people using, I'm just going to use my iPhone. It's close enough. Well, is 50 yards really close enough?
Yeah.
I would say no. So,
and that
you're about to ask me a question.
Yeah, I was just going to say that makes a lot of sense what you're saying. I didn't apologize for cutting you off, but
That's
it
okay.
makes a lot of sense because, I mean, you can get a lot. I know there's a lot of apps that you can put on your phone and you can do this and that. But again, and certainly I'm sure some of them are fairly accurate as well. But you're right. You're out in the golf course and, if you're somewhere between 1 to 3 yards, that's a huge difference as opposed to 40 or 50 or 100 yards. That's again, it could be a 5 club difference. So you need to have that accuracy. So the technology is important and it needs to be, accurate because again, you're needing to gather the information. It brings me to my next question. And that is, what is driving this? Why do you think, is it the players just wanting more information at their fingertips? Is that really what's driving this?
There are some people who want so much information. And that's one of the we showed you even last year, the super tags that we were coming out with, right?
Yeah.
That even gives people more information on their golf swing, right? Not only does it does game tracking, but it breaks down every swing measuring 15 different data points at 5 different times in the swing, right? And you can turn some of those off, or only see what you want to see. But and it also does putting. So that's even more data that people want to see. I mean, you a lot of golfers now, you can say, hey, what's your swing speed and ball speed on your driver? And most of them can tell you, because they've been to a launch monitor, or they have some way of measuring that, and they've committed that to memory, right? So then that's just data. That's just driven data. But if the data is not accurate, it does nobody any good.
Right.
So that's why we use these commercial grade GPS antennas, GPS engines, and then the way we map for the accuracy, because we know accuracy matters. We even the Pro Series now is even being used in the Legends Tour in the UK, which is the
Right.
seniors tour over there, right?
Right.
They
Right.
use our devices over there on tour, and I've talked to several of those guys at the different senior PGA championships that I've been to. They've come across the pond to play in those events, and they're like, "Look, I don't even have to think about things anymore, because if I'm on a par 5 and I say I want to hit my drive, 290 yards down the fairway, and then that leaves me X amount in, then I can say, well, I don't want to risk it because there's a lot of bunkers up there. I can say now I want to leave myself a 60-yard shot from where I'm at in the fairway. So from where I am to leave myself 60 yards, I only have to hit the ball 180 yards, and then I go 60 yards into the pin, right?
Mhm.
So it helps them strategize very quickly without having to do a bunch of numbers
Yeah.
while they're there, and wasting time. So it allows them to play faster also.
And that's important, especially at that level, because you're talking, if you're number 1, 2 player, let's say in the pack, and all of a sudden you make some bad choices and you're 4 or 5, that's a lot of money. That's a big swing in money. Golf swing. So, I mean, these guys are playing, but again, for the regular guys out there that want, what I really like about what this technology has done is, it gives them a lot of information that is useful. And, something interesting that you said, you talked about, and I know what you were alluding to, but, you can go to simulators, or you can, go in to see your pro, and maybe they're running TrackMan or something like that. And you can get that. But, our swings change from week to week, and our distances change from week to week as well. So
Absolutely.
I really like the tags system, because, you might be, cranking that thing out, your driver out one distance last week, your swing speed might have been this and so forth. But then this week, maybe you didn't eat your Wheaties or something in the morning, and,
Right.
you don't have the same strength, and it could be a lot different. So it's nice to have that data in real time, as opposed to waiting till you go and see your pro, or next time you visit the simulator to get that information. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think it's nice to have that. And which brings me to this, is I want to talk about, which is I know what you're alluding to here, and that is Sky Golf's GameTrax 360 system. I want you to unpack that for us. What is it, and what specifically does it do, and how do the players benefit from it? So this is what you're talking about, the tags.
You can barely see that tag right there, probably on the end of my club.
Yeah. So
right.
That screws into the
That screws into the end of the club. All right. There's a coin battery in there that's user replaceable. The battery should last probably 2 years.
Right.
Of pretty good playing. Okay. Now, like I said earlier, what that tag does, and you have a tag on every club in your bag, from driver to putter. I even got my putter here. I don't know if you can really see it there on my putter. Now, for these Super Stroke grips, we have, the putter has a little insert there. I don't know if you can really see that.
I can see it now.
You have to take the weight out and then put the insert in, and then the tag literally just screws right on top. So it makes it very easy. So, but the cool thing is about these devices is they track your game, hence the GameTrax, right? And they'll tell you, okay, excuse me, on number 1 hole, you pulled your driver and you hit driver. Let's say you hit driver 260 yards, and your swing speed was 123 miles an hour. Just kind of throwing some numbers out there, right? And then at that point, you're in the fairway, right? And then from the fairway there, let's say you hit 8-iron to the green, you hit your 8-iron, 150 yards, and your swing speed was 90 miles an hour.
Right.
Okay. And then when you get there to start putting, you can actually set the pin to where the cup is, and then as you putt, it'll track your putts into the cup. Let me see if I can actually show you some other things in here. It may be hard to see.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, go ahead.
I don't know if you can actually see this or not, but
yeah, right there.
Can you? Okay, so you can see it tells me all the different types of information, and then right here it shows that there's a three-dimensional breakdown of my swing. Right.
Yes. Yep.
So I can tap on that and enlarge that, and then I can move this around. Sorry, I have to turn it to kind of see what I'm doing.
Yeah, no,
but
that's
I
fine.
can move that, right? And then I can also play this, and I can see my swing in three dimensions. Okay, I can stop it at certain points, and I can see what those measurements are. Like if I'm, where's my club halfway coming down? What's the face angle? Is it open? Is it closed? My club shaft, is it inside, outside? The preferred line. Any of that information, I can get all that kind of information in here. So that there allows me to track my game a little bit better. Now, what we don't want people doing is setting, when they're playing golf, we don't want people looking at every single swing they take in between golf shots, right? Because
Right.
now all you're going to do is you're going to slow everybody down, right?
Of course.
So at the end of your round, you can simply hit sync round, and it will Wi-Fi sync your device up to your Sky Golf 360 account, and all the information will be then in your account, and you can go into your account and you can look at all this information. It's also going to tell you strokes gained, strokes lost on certain holes based on what your handicap is or what your handicap goal is that you set. So if you're say you're a 15 handicap and you're trying to make to be a 10, you can set to where you want to be a 10 handicap, and it'll show you your game progression to get to that 10 handicap the way you're playing right now.
Wow.
It's also great information. You can, if you're taking lessons, you can take it to your instructor and say, look, and you can show him your swing in three dimensions and say, look, I've got a really bad habit of really on the downswing, I'm really inside and I get myself caught, and then you're kind of just flipping it over at that point and not really swinging the club freely. And you can show him that information. The abundance of information it gives you is really, really crazy. So it's a really neat thing.
Well, and that's where I think a lot of players nowadays want to have access to information. I mean, you have to be careful too that, like you said, when you're out in the golf course, you don't want to be, you're there to play, you're there to have fun, you're there to enjoy yourself.
Right.
So if I understand everything correctly, so then these tags are basically recording that information, and then when everything gets synced later on, it's basically uploading to your account, your 360 account.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can see all the data. And you said that you can show or share that with your coach. Is there a way currently, or is this something that maybe I'm spilling the beans early here? Is there going to be a way, if it's not available now, that a player that has a dedicated coach, that they can somehow get into, not, I don't want to say sign into their account, but they can, through some sort of a connection, that they can instantly send that once they've uploaded it to their account, send it to their coach?
That might be something that we're looking at too in the future. At the moment, the only way you could do it was you'd have to send them your username and password for them to log into if you wanted to see them all the data. Now, one of the other great things that the super tags will do is to say I am taking a lesson, and say we're working on mid irons in that lesson, and I hit a 6-iron, the purest I've ever hit it. And your coach says, that's how I want you to swing your mid irons right there. I can then save that swing as a favorite swing. And then I can go and overlay other swings to that, so I can see where those other swings are,
compare it.
Out of bounds is a bad terminology, but out of whack, so to speak. Where am I losing track of that groove that I had with this 6-iron when I was with the instructor versus now? And then you can almost self-teach yourself or self correct yourself and move forward that way. So it's really a crazy, awesome concept that we're using.
Well, and it's valuable information to the player. I mean, obviously, it's always, I think, good to work with a coach, but at the same time, it's valuable information because a lot of times, if you're maybe going every couple of weeks to see your coach, and he or she has given you some drills to work on and things like that, and you're out there and you make a pure swing out in the range. Let's say you hit a beautiful 6-iron, like you said, and you want to know how you've done that. Of course, you can record that, save it to your favorites. And then next time you get together with your coach for a lesson, you guys can review that. And then, as you said, you can overlay some of the bad ones that, maybe you did during that session with him. And then you can compare it. And he can say, okay, this is the good one over here. Here's 2 or 3 other swings that you've done here. And here's what the problem is. And now we're going to try to work on it to get you swinging like that all the time. That's valuable information, because what a lot of golfers end up doing, and I know this as a coach, when they're not with you, and we realize life happens, you're busy doing other things, you're not always going to get up to the range, you're not going to work that. But having those points and those data entry points that are valuable information is things that you can look at when you're at home. You don't need to be up at the golf course. You can look at that on your phone, or you can, check it online or on your, on your computer, what have you. And you can assess that information and look at it and say, okay, here's some areas parts of my game that I'm really struggling with, and here's parts that I'm really happy with. And that information gives your coach then an opportunity to look at that and say, okay, yeah, I agree with that. That's some areas that you're struggling with. Let's put a game plan together to pick those numbers back up and make it so that they're more uniform. And so that's where it comes in. Where it does have the problem is, unfortunately, everybody gets excited. And I mean, I've just got my cell phone, but they're looking at it, and they're holding the foursome up behind you, and next thing you know, golf balls are flying over their head. So there's a time and a place for it. But I like the fact that information is then stored and then can be accessed at a later point when it's appropriate. And I think this GameTrax 360 system is just, in my opinion, when it comes to instruction and also from a player standpoint, is a game changer. Now, you mentioned very early on about a new product. You mentioned about the 5X, but now you've got the Pro 4X Sky Caddie coming out. Is that officially out now? Is it been released out now?
It's officially out. You can order it right now on the website.
Okay. That's a new release. How does it differ from some of the other models that you guys have had in the past? So what's new about this that you guys are jazzed up about?
Well, the Pro 4X, it'll work with the super tags. So it's super tag ready. Okay. The other part is it's got all the newest GPS engine, and just like the Pro 5X, it's got the new GPS engine, the new GPS antenna. It's got the upgraded Bluetooth antenna in it, different things like that to make it better, faster, smarter than previous devices.
Okay.
So kind of almost like building a $6 million man,
right?
Stronger, faster, smarter. But yeah, it's new. It's just been released within the last couple of weeks, and we're super excited about it.
And again, really, it's essentially, if I understood you correctly, it's essentially just a little bit smaller version of the 5X, right?
It is. It's a 4-inch screen versus the 5.5-inch screen. So
that's pretty much the only difference, then, really, between the two.
That's the only difference. The UI and everything else is exactly the same.
Now, I'm just curious, why the difference? Why not just stick with the one? Why did you want to come out with one that was a little bit smaller?
There are some people who don't like the 5X is too big, right? Okay. They say it doesn't fit in their pocket too well. They get it confused with their cell phone because it's about the same size as an iPhone, right? It doesn't. We've had people say, "Oh, it doesn't fit in the cup holder very well," right? The 4X fits in a cup holder great, slides in your pocket great. We also have cart mounts, of course, that you can mount it to the side of your cart with. Everybody wants something a little different. You cannot. There's no way possible you can mistake this for your cell phone, because I don't know of any cell phone that is this small that looks anything like this anymore. So, we're really, really happy about it.
Yeah, no,
we're excited about
it. And you said too that, of course, you got the watch as well. You had that on your wrist, and so does that work in conjunction? So let's say, for argument's sake, would it be an either or situation? The reason I'm trying to clarify so that the audience knows. So if I didn't want to, I could bring both, right? I could bring the 4X, and then I could also have a watch. Do they sync together?
No, they don't sync together. They work independently apart. Now the watch is not GameTrax, Swing
Gotcha.
Tracks ready at all yet. Uh, that may be something in the future that we're coming out with later on. A
But I
watch that
could
will work
operate
with
both.
those.
Right, but I
You
could
can operate
operate.
absolutely. You can
So in other
operate
words,
both.
I could leave the bigger unit, the 4X, let's say, in my cart, which is, and in other words, it's going to be connected with the tags, right? So I'm still
Yes.
getting the advantage of the tags. But at the same time, because unfortunately, I've hit a bad shot and I'm now 30 feet or 40 feet or whatever from the cart, I've got my watch that I can get the yardages that I need. It's just not going to sit up with the tag. But because I have the bigger unit, the tag will then basically sync with that one, right? Not the watch, the 4X.
Right. So wherever the 4X is, that's where the tag is going to think your golf ball is. So if
Oh,
you've got to walk across the fairway and
okay.
your
You got
car
to take
path
it with.
only, you're going to take you want to take the device with you to mark it. Or later on when you sync the device, you can always edit that shot and move it
Gotcha.
on the
Okay,
golf
so
course
the
if need
tag,
be.
even though the tag is in the club and that's what I'm trying to understand. So even
Yes.
though the tag is in the club and you're standing out in the middle of the fairway, but your cart's 20 feet, to the
Yes,
left and
it
right,
will still read it.
it will read it. But it's going to base the reading from where the 4X unit is, not where the tag is, correct?
Correct, because that's what the GPS engine's going into the unit. The tag does not have GPS in it.
Gotcha. Okay, so you need to have the big. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that people
Yeah,
understood that, so
absolutely.
that because I don't want somebody misunderstand and think, okay, that's not a big deal. I can leave it in the cart and I can go over here because the tag's picking up all the data, and that there would be a discrepancy. So I just want to make sure people understood that. So what do you find from when you're speaking with or getting feedback from customers? What are some of the majority of, I guess if you would take an average of comments, what are people looking for when they're reaching out to you guys? And I'm not talking about your customer service and things like that. I'm just talking about what is some of the feedback that you're getting from your customers as far as not just the technology, but what it does. Or are they saying, I'd like to see more of this in an updated model or something? What's been some of the feedback?
We really haven't had anybody say they want to see more of really anything because we give people a
It's
ton of
robust.
information already.
Yeah.
We've had some really incredible compliments on how the system is working now with the tags and the devices. We've had I was down at the Villages early April for their golf fest,
Oh, okay.
and I had one of our customers came up to me, and he said, "I just want to tell you that the Pro 5X and the Super Tags are the best thing that's ever happened to my golf game." And he went through and was telling me about how he was using them and tracked his round and then went home and watched it and said, okay, one of the things I want to work on is my club head speed. So he went in and did a grooving session, which is we have them in there, right? A groove session is a way to improve things like swing speed or take away length or shaft lean at impact, all kinds. But you can groove your swing because we all know a golf swing is nothing more than muscle memory, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I can go through and I can set these parameters in here to say, okay, I want my swing speed to be on my 7-iron to be within this parameter, right? Whatever that parameter may be. Say it's between 75 and 82 miles an hour, right?
Yep.
So every time I swing that club, if I'm in that zone, it gives me a little green check and right. So I'm like, cool, good. If I get, if I do well enough in that groove, it'll move me to the next level, which then that cone shrinks a little bit more. So my
Right.
swing speed, I can get closer and closer to the actual swing speed that I want to get to, right? And again, that's all through muscle memory. So you can do the groove sessions with the club tags too in your units, and it's really good. But he says, I got my swing speed up to where I wanted it with my clubs. He goes, I went back out the next day. He goes, I shot one of the best 9-hole rounds I've shot in the last 15 years.
Right.
He goes, that's all due to your tags.
That's fantastic.
He goes, because I had no way of measuring it without those tags. And so we've got some of his quotes and stuff that he gave us. We put some up on our website and stuff like
Oh
that
yeah.
because he's just absolutely loving them. And we've had a lot of other people say the same thing. This me tracking my game and knowing when I hit a bad shot that I can mark it down on my scorecard to look at shot 3 on hole 4.
Right.
I can go back and then after my round I can look at that shot and I can almost pick it out why that shot went array, or why
Right.
did I hit it fat or thin or whatever. I can see it because then I can do self-correction and work it out on my own. So that's a lot of the feedback we're getting. Never really had a problem with the accuracy of the device or things that people want to see more on the device. The device does so much more than any other device on the market.
Yeah.
One thing, and I think I remember telling you this when you were there. One thing all of our devices do that no other device in the market can do is our green. Our green can rotate based on your angle of approach coming in. So if I'm playing and I hit a shot far left and I end up in the middle of number 3's fairway instead of number 1's fairway, that green will rotate and show me my true front, middle, back coming in for where I'm at.
Right.
So I'll have true numbers. If the green doesn't rotate, you're not going to get true numbers from any other
Right.
device out there. So
Right.
that's
And if you got things like bunkers or things like that as well, that now you have to factor in because you've mishit something. No, that the information is vital. What I really like about it, I want to go back to what this gentleman that down the Villages had said to you, and this really came to my thoughts here. From a coach's perspective, one of the biggest pet peeves is how do we motivate people to want to go out and practice? Because everybody says, well, practice is boring. Yeah, I like hit my driver because I can hit it pretty good, but I don't like doing all the other stuff. But it sounds to me really what you guys have done is created a motivation by giving them that information and giving them that good feedback that encourages people to want to go out and practice. So they want to know what their numbers are. They want to know, they want to see what that golf swing looks like in a 3D format. And they want to see, all of this other data and be able to then create a plan that then gives them something to work towards. Like you said, when you talked about the parameters and things like that. And to me, from a coach's perspective, because that's hard. I mean, I'm sure you've heard it from a lot of coaches. That's one of the big pet peeves that we have is, okay, we've got a great lesson. They're focused on everything and that, but then we don't see them for 2 weeks. And, well, Bob, what'd you do for 2 weeks? Well, I didn't get a chance to get out the range. I did that. And, I'll be honest, I don't really enjoy working on this part of my game because it's not very, much fun or whatever. And they get drilled to death. They get drilled to death. So from this gentleman's perspective that you were talking about a few moments ago, now he's kind of jazzed up and excited because he's seeing in real time how his results can change with a little bit of work, but he's seeing it in your platform, the results and the changes.
correct.
So now he's able to, and that could be 2 weeks before he sees his coach. Now he can go back. He's excited. Say, hey, coach, I've been working on this and that for the last couple of weeks. Here's how the numbers have changed from when you saw me the last time. And remember, we were trying to get into that range. And hey, guess what? I'm in that range now. So that gives, again, great feedback to the coach, and it gets them, the player, pretty excited about wanting to go out and work on some of these things because, again, they can adjust the parameters to basically handle whatever it is they need to be working on. So that's going to be a positive thing for you guys as well to hear customers say that.
Right. It is. And my thing is, it gives people, like you said earlier, it gives them a reason to practice.
Yeah. Trust me.
Okay. If you're my coach and you tell me, Clay, look, I need you to go do this, right? And if I'm out there just banging balls and have no way of seeing, am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Am I doing what the coach told me to do? Because, okay, the ball may be flying in the air and I may have, it may look good to me, but there still may be some small flaw in there that I don't see.
Right.
But now I can see it,
Mm-hmm.
right? With the tags, I can see it, right?
Right.
So to me, it gives people a reason to practice. It motivates people to practice. I am the world's worst about putting. I think putting practice is boring. I
is.
really do. Nobody likes to practice putting, right? But now with a tag, I can actually see what my putting stroke is doing. And if I make a change, I can see it. And when I can see it in the results,
Mhm.
right? Real quick story.
Sure.
We had a couple guys at the office when we were testing tags. We'll say late winter, early spring. We were testing some tags, and the guys come in and they were like, "There's something wrong with this tag because it's telling me that on my backstroke on my putter that I pull the putter to the inside." He goes, "I don't pull my putter. There's no way possible I pull my putter to the inside."
Right.
Well, we got two 2x4s and set them up there. Guess what happened when the first pullback? Inside 2x4 fell over. Why? Because
Right.
he pulled his putter inside.
Right.
Right. But he swore up and down he didn't do that. Right. But by seeing it and then proving it to him, he now knows how to kind of fix that issue. We had another guy who on his downstroke he lifted up a little bit and you could see a hump in
Yep.
his forward swing in his putter. You could see a hump. And we actually got down on the ground and videoed his putter, and you could actually see his putter coming across and raise it up. And he was topping all of his putts, and he didn't know why. Well, if he didn't have a tag to show that hump, he wouldn't have figured it out as quickly, So some of those simple little things like that, and then the reward you see on people's face, and wow, that's incredible. It's really cool on how all that works.
Now, are more? Let me ask you from a professionals level, because obviously that gives them information. Because again, they're not always. I mean, they're traveling. A lot of them are traveling the country or even the world. And even though they have instant access in many cases to a coach, they're obviously taking advantage of this technology now because it gives them in real time the information they need. Is there going to be a day? Because I know some stuff is what I say legal in tournament and that. Is there going to be a day where all of this is going to be legal in tournaments? Is it going to be moving towards that? I mean, I know some of them are, that you're seeing the rangefinders and things
Right.
like that, but do you see a time and maybe
that's some different things that we're going to have to talk to the USGA and the RNA and the PGA about. So I'm sure those are future discussions that are coming because people are. If I was a pro player, I would love to have these tags on my clubs and at the end of my day, go back and review my entire round and say, okay, I know on hole 3 on that par 5 that my second shot that I was hitting to a layup point was a little, I didn't hit the shot that I wanted. So let me go back and look at that shot and see. Right. And so I can go back and look at it and see if I can pull it out of the data of what did I do wrong. And, okay, well, I see that I was a little bit too far on the inside on my downswing. So, that's what caused me to, do an inside out swing and cause the ball to do what it did. So, okay, case in point, now I know what I've done wrong. So, I can see that in the future.
Yeah, I see also in the future, and again, I was thinking of this while you were giving that explanation. Where the day is going to come, because from a fan's perspective, I mean, we've seen now for the last several years, Top Tracer has their technology out there, and everybody sees that basically the shape of the shot. I mean, I think you're going to see the day in real tournament where you'll see a split screen where you'll see the golfer taking his the real swing. And then you're going to see, the image that you showed me, the audience earlier, where you're going to see a digital version, if you will, or whatever you want to call it, of the player, of the actual swing, and the numbers are going to pop up, because that to me is going to be interesting for the fans to see. I mean, and I know it's different than what we've been used to growing up, as when we were younger as tournament golf, but that's where the future is, I think, where a lot of kids, or I shouldn't say kids, but young guys are interested in this stuff. And they don't want to just watch the guy walking from hole to hole. They want to see, and people got jazzed up when Top Tracer came out. I can see something like along the lines of Sky Caddie, seeing that in tournaments where that data is going to be popped up on the screen, and on the other side you're going to see the player hitting the shot, and now all of those numbers are going to come up in real time. I see that integration happening on tour events, maybe not in the next 5 years, but certainly maybe within the next 10 years, because you're seeing that digital environment is becoming more and more prevalent in so many other areas of our lives. I think golf is going to have to move in that direction to keep the game interesting. What do you think on that?
Correct. I 100% agree with you. There are some things that some of the traditions in golf, I think golf is going to have to change in the future.
Yeah.
Um, so, um, but yeah, that to me, that would be incredible to watch a guy, like you say, swing and then watch the data pop up right next to it. And it shows you, you know, his launch angle, his swing speed, club head speed, and then where was the club head halfway back, right?
Right.
Was it open, closed? Was he inside, outside? That would be crazy amount of data for people to see. And then as everybody mimics a favorite golfer, they mimic their swing, right? And that would just give you even more points to where you could mimic somebody else's swing by knowing where they are at certain points of their swing. So,
well, I think it also make it more interesting for the announcers in the tower, give them something to talk about instead of guessing all the time. A lot of times they're saying, well, so-and-so did this and so-and-so did that. And I know that, there are some good guys, that don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to put them down, but having that information like that available on the screen where everybody can see, that gives them their points. They can just go through and say, yeah, look, he did this or he did that or she did this or did that. So, I see that being becoming an integral part of golf moving forward. Technology is here to stay. It's fascinating. It's interesting. Right now, of course, it has its place, and you've got to know how to use it properly. And it's interesting to get excited about it. But again, it's something that you want to be able to again put it in proper context. But I think it's just a matter of time. I think you're going to see in the next few years the R&A and the USGA and that are going to have to make some changes, because I think in order to keep the fan base, because the younger generation coming up that are getting into golf, they're all technology driven. That's what they're looking for. And, if you don't have that, then it becomes boring to them. So, us older guys, that grew up in the traditional golf, I love it. I think it's great and exciting to see. We've had to adapt to different things, and I think we're going to see that technology. I know that this obviously a lot of the products that you have require a subscription, correct?
Correct, they do.
Okay. Talk about what the subscribers get for their commitment, because that's obviously, is it a monthly commitment or is it annual?
It's the annual subscription.
Okay.
Now, any device that you buy new, you get a first year's free. So you get your first year free. And then after that, you can do a birdie, which is for the state that you play in. You can do an eagle, which is for the entire United States, or you can do double eagle, which is for the entire world. We got over 35,000 golf courses worldwide in our database that somebody has went and walked, right? In the 20 plus years of being in the market, you can get some golf courses under your belt. So, but yeah, so what does that membership do, right?
Okay. Yep.
Membership does several things. It still allows us to go out and map golf courses from a golfer's perspective, like we do, right? Mm-hmm. It allows us to pay for all the storage of all this data now that we have coming in, right? Because you got people who keep saving their scorecards and now swings and all that kind of stuff. So all that stuff takes storage room, right? So it helps pay for that storage room also.
Sure.
And it helps us build future products that are out there. So, almost everything now is subscription based, one way or the other. So that's why we are what we are. So, and the customer gets some really good deals. You get you get a golf magazine for a year. We got some subscription where you get some free Bridgestone golf balls,
right?
Stuff like that. So we do make it to where we're making it worth the customer's while. We're also working with some partnerships with some other golf companies to where they'll give our customers discounts on their products. And you'll see that coming out very soon.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think it's so important to work together in our industry. That's one of the nice things about, when you go down to, as we talked about earlier, the PGA show, there's so many great organizations that you can partner with that have a little something that they can offer and vice versa. And I think that, golf is a very, what was interesting, out of this a few years ago when we went into the pandemic as tragic as it was for many people, it was a big shot in the arm for the golf industry because
Absolutely.
it brought a lot of change, and in many cases needed change, and it opened a market that really was not there before. And, typically when people thought of golf, they thought of the typical country club and that sort of thing, or maybe the resorts. But now they're seeing that there's so much available. And with the onslaught of technology, this younger generation, as I said, is really, jazzed up about it. And I know when I go out when I get a chance to go to the golf course and I see these young kids, they're looking at their watches, they're looking at this, they're looking at that. And I have seen some Sky Caddies out there. So I know there's some guys in my area. And so, I mean, they're really excited about that technology and wanting to learn from it. And I really like what you talked about earlier about how they can utilize it. It's not just about giving them the numbers, but how they can actually take those numbers and create a game plan on how to improve their game. And that's really what it's all about, is the better you can play and the more fun you're going to have. And if you guys can marry that technology, in the teaching side of things and not just with the coaches, but with the players themselves, to be able to learn from that and make adjustments as they need it, I think it's just a fantastic thing. So if people want to get more information, where can they go? And is there any specials coming up? We got Father's Day just a few weeks away, and anything cooking
there's a Father's Day special. I believe it started today. If our memory serves, it starts today or tomorrow, a Father's Day special.
Okay.
I don't exactly know what it is off the top of my head, but the website will tell you what it is, skygolf.com.
Okay.
We also have a lot of great videos out there on our website and on our YouTube page. We have a Sky Caddie YouTube page. I don't know if you know who Chris Trott is, Trotty Golf.
Yep.
Right. We've teamed up with Trotty, an amazing guy, and he does a lot of our talks to people a lot about Sky Caddie. He does a lot of explanation videos about super tags and Sky Cat and the Pro 5X, because that's what he's had, and how it works with the tags, how you can use them in conjunction with each other and things like that. So there's a lot of information out there, and we're always just a phone call away or a little email from the website away, and somebody will get back in touch with you if you're looking for some information.
Sounds good. All right. I want to thank you very much, Clay, for coming on. I'm going to get you to hang tight for a second as I wrap up, and then
Okay.
we'll get people going to that website one more time, and that's skygolf.com is the website. All of the information there, all of the products that we talked about tonight and more. And obviously there's some specials on there, I know, for Father's Day, because I was on earlier, so you can check that out as well. And there's contact information there as well if you want to reach out to any of the team at Sky Golf. But I want a special thanks to all of my guests this evening. Again, a special thanks to Clint Wright for joining me earlier on the Coach's Corner panel. Thank you, Clint, for always bringing your best to our discussions. I also want to thank Robert Kaufman, the co-host and travel expert, joining me in the middle section of the show on our special travel segment, and our special travel guest, Katherine Sansone, founder of Sansone PR and Marketing. Again, if you want to get more information there, you can visit her website. And then last but not least, but my featured guest tonight, thank you again, Clay Simpson from Sky Golf, for joining me. A lot of great stuff, and go to skygolf.com to get more information. And I will see you guys not next week, because I'm going to be off next week, but the week after I'll be back with another interesting show, another Coach's Corner, and another featured guest of the evening. So I hope you'll join me. God bless everybody and have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this week's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. We'd like to thank this week's Coach's Corner panel, and a special thank you to tonight's guest. Remember to join Ted every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central on Golf Talk Live. And be sure to follow Ted on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're interested in being a guest on Golf Talk Live, send Ted an email at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.